Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a tutorial for this technique that I used in making my Ollie on a cup project recently for my store. The first thing you want to start at is, of course, to have your hook, your Tunisian, your yarn, as you can see in our background, and, of course, a pair of scissors. Now, as you can see, I worked the first forward and reverse pass just to get you started. Now, this technique is specifically for a vertically placed button. So we're making the buttonhole up and down like this instead of horizontal. We can adapt this technique, however, to meet the standards for a horizontal button, but it is not recommended for a teeny button or the kind of button that you're probably going to find on a shirt. So you want to definitely have a larger button. So the first thing we're going to do is, having decided that we're going to put our buttonhole about in the middle of the work here, we're going to work from here to right before the buttonhole in a short row. So go ahead and we'll do one more. Now, having determined that our buttonhole is going to be right here at the 6th stitch, we're going to stop working. So we're going to go and do a reverse pass just as if we had finished our row. Do 1, and then through 2 the rest of the way to the beginning. Now you're going to do this again, and you're going to do your short row as tall as you need your button to be. For the purposes of this tutorial, we'll do it 3 rows high, which is the height of the button that we made before. So again, do 1 for our first one, and then 2 for the rest. And we're on to our last piece. Now, this is where we would stop. You have 1, 2, and 3 rows. So, you're going to make sure that you want to leave a decently long tail, because you're going to go ahead and reconnect your strand to this end when we go to make the top of the buttonhole. So, we'll cut it. And here's the fun part. I'm going to draw this out a little bit because we don't want it to get lost. And we're going to go take our yarn, and we're going to join right here where the next loop starts. So insert our hook, and me personally, I like to join my yarn open-tailed and then work over top of it, but however you want. If you want to make a slip knot, is perfectly fine. So we'll make sure that we pull it tight. And this is what I do. I yarn over, and draw up my first loop. If you can see on the back, we have our tail hanging off here. So what I do with my tail is, before I go and continue with the next stitch, I take my tail and put it over where I'm working so that the yarn over secures that strand in the back. So and it's a little more time consuming to do this, but it eliminates you having tails that are just hanging off the back of the work that you have to reposition constantly or cut or weave in later. Because I'll tell you what, I hate weaving in ends. Let's see, oh, he slipped away from me, and as you'll notice as the strand gets smaller, it's a little harder to do, but just be patient with it because it's worth the nice look it's going to give. And when it's about here, that's really, really, really short, you can go ahead and stop there and you can just nip off the end that you're working with. So I sit here struggling with this piece. And then we have our last stitch. And of course, as with the beginning short rows, now that we're done with this row, I'm going to run over, go through one loop, and then the two for the rest. Now, we'll go and do our second row. And I chose a variegated yarn so it would be a little easier to see the vertical post versus the filler on the project, but of course it also can be a little distracting to work with. So finishing off our third row now, and then comes the even more fun part. So one and then two. Okay, now, so we have our one piece here, and then we have our other piece here. And you can see right there where the hook is lying the buttonhole area. So again, we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to take our scissors. You can definitely snip a smaller end this time. I'm lazy and I like to do this because I'm naughty. And then I will work over this piece most of the time, but for the purposes of this, I'm probably going to forego that. Now, again, because I'm using a variegated yarn, you're going to notice a difference in these stitch changes that is rather sudden and not in the pattern. So, obviously, this works with any kind of yarn, but to use a variegated, you are going to notice a gap. So you can do two things. You can either deal with it, or you can choose to cut your yarn at the same point that you cut it the first time, so it continues it on, but you may end up wasting some yarn depending on how your yarn variegates. So, we start at our beginning, again, drawing up all of our loops, and as we come to the end, you're going to notice a little trick with this. Okay, this is the end right here. So instead of going in between, as you would normally go if it was the very end, I want you to go through just that leg. Okay, now, when you get to the other side, you notice the leg right there, and I want you to go through this leg. Now, at first you're probably going to say, oh, well, it's going to leave this nasty gap. Well, it really doesn't. It looks like it for a short period of time, as you can see right there with the knot showing ugly through. But after you work your next pass, then it will have actually disappeared. So, not to worry. And then, of course, way at the end, now, through one, and then through two. And I'll go ahead and work one more row with you guys so that you can see it cinch up real nice. And make sure when you go here, as you see there's a very large gap, that you draw it nice and tight, okay? But again, like I said, it will correct itself, as so to speak, from the next row. So, it is advised that you not do your buttonhole too close to the edge with your top, and so that it doesn't show as badly. And again, you went through just this leg, which was easier this time because it was right there. But with this one, you see that slanted edge, and it's the very beginning leg, which corresponds to the very beginning leg on the row before it. And through one, and two, the rest of the way through. I'll move a little faster so that I can show you my handiwork. Now, pull this out. Now, as you can see, you've got this nice little buttonhole. And I'll go ahead and move it up closer to you. But you can also see right there where that right there that you're seeing actually is just the knot. There is no gap with your stitches. So it's real nice and pretty. Now, of course, make sure again that you size the amount of rows with your gauge for the size buttonhole you need. And then you also make considerations for centering and stuff like that. So there you go. You've made a nice vertical buttonhole. We're going to put up another video in a little while that alters this technique to make a vertical, or a horizontal, buttonhole. But we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us. Have a great day.